This conference will now be recorded.
Very good. Well, we'd very much like to welcome our new member, Gavin.
Okay. I'd like to introduce Gavin Shalinsky. Gavin is a resident of Albion. I don't know, how long have you and your family been here?
This November will be 15 years.
Okay. They live out at Village of White Oaks. I've had the pleasure of knowing him the last couple of years. And he drove by on his golf cart one night and waved, and I thought, why haven't I thought of him before? And Tom jokingly said to him, just imagine if you'd have honked the horn, what she might have gotten involved in. So he's very excited, which makes me very happy to have somebody willing. And so anyway, I'm very happy to have him and welcome aboard. I do have to also apologize, though. This tonight's discussion, you're not making a decision, but this is a challenging thing, and we don't have very many of them. So you're kind of being thrown to the wolves, but don't let it overwhelm you, because there's not a lot like this that goes on. So anyway, thanks for agreeing to join us. And if the others would just briefly tell Gavin a little bit about who you are, if you would, please.
Well, awesome. I'm Brian Stolte, live out of White Oaks as well. Been an Albion resident since '63, a couple of years minus in the Philippines, but mostly Albion since '63. Yeah, I'm retired at the moment, so life is good.
Lori Gagan, used to live in the Village of White Oaks. Also raised here. When I joined the board, I was working for the Economic Development Corporation in Middle County, so that's kind of the transition into this board that I'm enjoying serving.
Josh Kessler, I've been living in Albion since about 2015, originally from Auburn. 2 kids, little ones. I'm sure you've seen them both before. Staying busy. A lot going on besides that. Kids.
I'm boring. Mike Selby, lived in Albion since '83. We got 2 kids. And my wife works in town. I work for myself. That's about it.
I'll go next. Hi, Gavin. Steve Gunty, town manager. I've been on board with the town for about 1 year, just a few days ago or something. Yeah. So anyways, it'd be nice to have you on board and look forward to working with you.
Very good.
Okay. I am going to go ahead and leave and let you guys have your chat. You're in the very capable hands of Zane, Steve, Carol's here, and Corey, our street superintendent. So feel free to ask them any questions. And I know it's a little bit of a challenging topic. We've spent hours and hours and hours on it. So Zane can probably answer any questions you might have. So thank you all for being here. Thanks, Zane. See everybody later.
Since this is a formal meeting, I think we do have to review the minutes from the June 11th meeting.
Make a motion for the minutes from last meeting.
There's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you. Okay, that can move us to basically our general topic of discussion of the evening is the roofing project for the Albion Municipal Building. Zane?
You want to start with?
I'll fumble a start and he'll get the fumble. Yeah, no, we started this, looking at the project, I think when I got, a year ago, when I got on board. And I forget if the roof came first or the thought of interior remodeling, but it was a bit simultaneously. And then, next thing you know, we focused on the roof, that we better get a, watertight barrier before investing $1 inside the building. And then it basically, we ended up just getting a lot of informal advice initially, which way we ought to go. We were consulting with Austin Pappenbrock all throughout the process. He's been our roofing consultant for, I forget how many years, but 10 plus or minus years, maybe something like that. And he's been working with Corey quite a bit. Anytime there's questions on the roof repairs, there's been numerous repairs. And we did try to answer. Both Brian had numerous questions, as did Lori, and those emails you have in front of you. But other than that, we then ultimately, trying to think here, we were looking at estimates and so forth. Austin had given us some estimates, and then in the long and short of it, we ended up going for a process that I don't know how you describe it. It's like a cooperative purchasing program. It's similar to Sourcewell. There's another, and we used a company called Omnia, and then Garland, the roofing manufacturer, whom Austin Pappenbrock is affiliated with, they work with that company. So ultimately, we ended up going that route to secure bids for the job, and our town attorney, to be fair, always felt, he wasn't in favor of that joint purchasing type of approach. He wanted a more strict bidding process through the IC code, whatever the number is. But the council decided, after doing some research, finding out that, this cooperative purchasing approach has been utilized, I thought it was something like 4,900 times in the past, how many years, maybe 10 years or something like that. I'm kind of a little off on the numbers, but Zane had done some extensive, I'll let him get into it if he wants, extensive conversations with Omnia and with Austin Pappenbrock to try to understand the approach. And then we heard there was contact with the State Board of Accounts. They didn't really weigh in saying, yeah, we're good with this, but through the grapevine, where one of the counselors had a contact with a Fort Wayne official who was I believe, a treasurer of some financial capacity and had umpteen years of experience with SBOA, they indicated that, yeah, we use this Omnia and all the time, and there's been no issue. Our attorney did point out that, well, yeah, but in advising us, he said there were about 2 cases where a town or somebody using that system got, I don't know if they were sued or SBOA had a problem with them, but this was like 10 years ago. And so anyways, based on all of that, the council felt, let's go the route of the cooperative purchasing. What it did, they would then handle the entire bidding process A to Z, and it was kind of maybe an easier process and less expensive on the front end administratively, legally, than if we'd have gone the more conventional route of seeking 3 bids. And so the bids that were received were basically bids for labor, because the materials was going to be purchased by the town. And so anyways, but the numbers that came in, the lowest bid was I think 1.4 million, just under 1.4 million. And so, and to be noted though, It wasn't just a simple, hey, let's spray on a coating, or let's do a one ply thick coating. It was the Cadillac version, but it also addressed underlying flaws in the roofing surface and substrate, rather, the real substrate, where some things had to be replaced. We were actually in pretty good shape with insulation. There was some that needed to be removed. But there was significant amount of pooling, water pooling, that then would require, a regrading of the substrate so that it was all sloped properly. And then it would also involve complete replacement of the surrounding metal edging, all of the gutter system, if you will, all the drains, things like that. So this was not a simple, and the quotes that kind of came to the attention of RDC, there were two quotes. One was Leatherman early on, before we even really, I think, had, or right after we had some early estimates from Austin, before we bid it out, for sure. Leatherman came in with a quote that was, in the, I don't know, it's a little over 300,000 or something like that.
333.
333 something, okay. And then later, after the quotes came in from, the 1.4 million quote, this Lori, I think you might have been responsible for asking the roofing contractor to be Noble Building to go there, and he went there, and then he came here, give me the results, and I somehow was telling him about, we're doing the roof here, and he's inquiring. So he went up and gave us a quote of, again, just under 400,000. But the point is, those two quotes were not apples to apples by any means. They were they specified, much lesser quality. And so that's how this all derived, if you will. So did I fumble much, Zane? And you can pick it up, please, if you'd like, or Q&A, whatever you want.
So a little bit more information on kind of the method behind the madness, if you will. We had a Public Works Committee meeting, and we began talking about the roof needing replaced. I believe Austin's been making repairs since 2017. So Austin was contacted when our roof collapsed. So in an emergency, if you will. He came up and fixed it. He has been doing inspections annually, I believe, twice a year, so biannually. So as a result of that, we kind of used him as a crutch, I guess you will, in advisement on what we were doing. He had let us know about the Omnia procurement process. So to get into a little bit more on this, the schools utilized it, the jails utilized it. He sent a list of entities in the state of Indiana that's in the thousands that's utilized this process. So it's not anything new. What it does and how it delineates between the traditional 3-bid process is it uses IC code 5-22-4-7, which allows us to buy the material directly from the manufacturer. Now that material was, it was solicited through Racine, Wisconsin, and it was the lowest, most responsible price in all 50 states for the material. So then the labor is bid based on the traditional means, which is IC 36-1-7. So that's why you see the different bids for the labor and not the material. The town was going to purchase the material directly from the manufacturer. It is substantially cheaper to do it that way for the material purchase, because then you don't have a roofing company that purchases it and marks it up and then resells it to you. All in all, we had estimated over $100,000 in savings between engineering and architectural fees, as well as the markups on the materials. So that's kind of what led us down the Omnia procurement path. Our attorney did not side with that path, but I will note that his law firm also represents Allen County, and the Allen County Public Library just put on a $4 million roof down there, and they also utilize the Omni procurement process. So this isn't a new thing. I called the State Board of Accounts, talked with them. They gave a very ambiguous answer, as they almost always do in matters such as these. So when we brought Austin into the council meeting and he talked, he brought in samples of roofs to see which way we wanted to go. One of the things that then we talked about after he brought in samples in a Public Works Committee meeting on which way we were wanting to go, my first question was, how long do we intend on being in this building? And again, I don't really have an opinion on how long we're going to be here, but if we're going to be here for the foreseeable future, our mentality at that point was to look for something that would project for a long time. And that's what led us down that path. And you guys can see that the quotes came in when we were first started this. I think the initial quotes was at 1.5 for a 40-year roof. And I can pass this around if you guys want to see it. It's just a graph looking at the cost of the roof. And it's an estimation for if it's a 40 or a 35-year roof, how much is it going to cost you for the life of that, for that 40-year roof? But then it also compared, like if you got a 20-year roof, what's it going to take that 20-year roof and make it to 40 years? So that was another factor in us going for this approach. So all that said, that was the backstory of why we got to where we had $1.3 million quote, okay? So then I believe it was brought to our attention that, you know, it was talked about at an RDC meeting and you guys had sticker shock, and understandably so. And at which point we sort of backpedaled a little bit, talking at the council level that do we want to look at a 20-year roof? Do we want to look at doing a traditional IC 3617 for both the labor and the material? And I think the consensus was to go ahead and do a traditional bid, so a 36-1-7 for both labor and material. The council was back and forth in terms of 40-year roof versus 20-year roof. What's the cost going to look like for a 20-year roof versus a 40? And all of that being said, where it gets sticky, in my opinion, is once we bid this out again, whatever we bid out, we need to stick with what we're doing. So I don't think it's, I don't know, we can ask, but I mean, we already have close to 40-year numbers here, so I don't think we need to rebid 40-year numbers. But I would say a safe estimate, if we're looking at a 20-year roof, would be around that $12.50 a square foot mark. Again, that isn't just membrane. I think some of the prices that have been shared have just been membrane prices. That doesn't include edge metal. It doesn't include fixing drains, the ponding problems, gutters. And the reason that those things are important and why they need addressed is, number one, if a storm rolls through and we haven't replaced all the edge metal blows off, roof blows off, the roof isn't warranted anymore because the edge metal was the cause of the failure, not the roof. Drainage has been a problem. Corey can probably attest to this up on the roof. So we have some things that need fixed. The good news is most of the insulation is reusable. So we shouldn't have a big cost in that. With all that being said, I don't know which direction the council is going in terms of a 20-year or 40-year roof. That I do not know. That was still kind of debated last council meeting. Also, we have since decided to push this project. It isn't going to be an appropriated 25 installation 26 project. It's going to be an appropriated 26 installation and 27 project. So there is a little bit of room. And I'll field any questions that anybody has on.
Oh, you guys seem like, say,
Yeah.
okay, has an engineer or anybody inspected the building to find out what its expected life is from this point forward?
The roof itself?
No,
or
the building.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, because that's going to lead me into my next question. Have you looked into, okay, a standing seam roof?
we have not.
Okay, that would be a steel roof pitched like the rest of the buildings out here, you know, the newer buildings. See what the cost of that is. Because,
Mike, if I may, pardon me for interrupting, Zane. That was one question I actually had early on when the estimate came in. Would we be better off with a pitched roof, you know, either shed style or gable style? And I did ask Leatherman Construction, and not only him, one other, I believe it was the roofer that was doing these. No, pardon me, it was probably Austin himself. Whether, hey, would we have any cost savings if we went to that style roof where we can put on a more traditional, either, you know, asphalt or, as you said, a metal standing seam? And both of them said it would, it would be at least the same cost. You wouldn't really gain much. That was my
well, where your savings would be is in the long term.
long haul.
In the long haul. I mean, you eliminate a flat roof. We all know a flat roof's gonna leak sooner or later. You know, you have that problem. That potential's there all the time.
Well, and it might open it up to more conventional roofers too, being able to, you know, construct the frame and do that style of roofing.
So to piggyback on your question a little bit, with regards to the next step in this process with 3 traditional bids, both for labor and material, we will be consulting an architectural engineering firm. My recommendation was Kelty Tappy to do that, which they would then write the spec of the roof that they think we need. But we can ask them about a standing seam roof as well.
That would
during that
eliminate
process.
some of your drains, you know, that you're fighting for, you know, if you're fighting any of them, but, you know. And you're trying to look for something that's very low maintenance.
I know nothing about roofs and how it all works.
Hey, I didn't either until all this began.
So, you know, and I've heard you discuss about the engineering firm and having them design or put together a design for people to bid, you know, to meet the requirements. And I'm looking at, and I'm not sure that I understand that process. Because to me, yes, you're designing a roof and you're going to get bids for that design. I get that, but I don't always know that that's going to be the most, it takes away any other options.
So I think what you're alluding to is like different competitions in terms of roofing systems. Is that?
Exactly,
Is that correct?
because you've spec'd this in, you said, this is what we want to bid. So it takes away other options. And to me, we all want a roof on the building that lasts, that's a good roof and that doesn't leak. That's what we all want, right? And hopefully with a long-term, you know, and I don't know that there aren't several options out there that can achieve that, but maybe in different ways.
So
If I may, do you mind, Brian, what came to me is that that certainly is an approach where you just throw it out there, we want a roof, and you say, lasting 20 years. And then you'll get, you know, 5 different styles of solutions, let's say, but they're all apples to oranges. So weighing them is difficult, and making a decision then is very convoluted as to, you know, how do you base the decision? Then the council's going to be having a discussion, well, you know, back to square one, you know, want a 20-year life, or I want a metal standing seam, I want this, I want that. So it would be very difficult to decide. So the advantage of the having it engineered one way is that you kind of decide in advance at some point, we want either a 20-year life with a, you know, rubber membrane roof, and then the engineer would design it, and then you know that everything that comes in is apples to apples. You're basically just looking at price at that point.
But before we design it, you need to really do the work. I mean, I don't know. So I don't know how you pick that design. You know, if there's 5 different designs of 20-year roofs and they vary in price from Y to Z, how do you pick which one you're going to spec?
Well, I have compared it I've used this analogy, right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's like you're specking tires, right? So we need a whole bunch of tires, and tires, you can get everything from, really, really super cheap tire to a really, really expensive tire. You're just specking tires, right? And they're not really apples to apples, because in that scope, you have, 40-year warranty tires, and then you've got, your cheaper Walmart tires that might have a year warranty, or excuse me, 40,000.
But the warranty is part of it.
It is part of it.
I mean,
But-
the warranty is really, depending on the
Part of
warranty,
what's
the
planned.
quality of the warranty is a huge part of whatever you're buying or getting.
Correct.
And I know it's apples and oranges, even the 3 quotes that we have, the one quote that you shared us through the Garland Omnia bidding process, and then the 2 others, the Leatherman quote and the quality roofing quote, they really are apples and oranges, especially the quality roofing quote. That is not a replacement roof. That's a coming in and laying over the fabric, the membrane over your current roof that's here. So it's really not apples and oranges, but bottom line, for those guys, they do have a 30-year warranty. I mean, it's achievable 30-year warranty if you clean it and resurface it after 18 years. To me, it's about getting a good roof at an affordable price that can cover it. Now, I don't know if that's right or wrong, or if it's good or bad. I'm just saying there just seems to be a lot of different options out there.
And I think that's what hopefully, in my mind, that's what the engineering and architectural firm will decide, like what would best suit the needs of this building based on hopefully lifespan, hopefully what we have up there, whether or not we can reuse insulation. So if we can reuse insulation, is it more beneficial to not do a standing seam because we can lay a membrane down? I don't know. I'm not a roofing person, to be honest with you.
Not either.
Right.
Start reading.
And that's the real confusing thing about all of a sudden, we're not all roofing people. And to Stephen's point, if you just get general quotes in, how do you sort it out? How do you define, which way to go? But that's a huge, again, the 1.4 million numbers, it's a big number. And, I guess in my view, I'm still looking, if it's my building, I think I want to look at a lot of options to.
And that's been the thing that everyone has said that I've talked to, even when I call these companies independently, they're like, well, what kind of system do you want? And I'm like,
Good.
a good one. I want a good one.
I mean, and it is hard, a 20-year roof versus a 40-year roof. 20 years, yeah, it's going to, suppose, that's half as long. You're going to have to replace it again. There's going to be inflation from here to there. Obviously, it's going to cost more to replace it,
And even within like a 20-year, so this is where it even gets murky, because you go, we want a 20-year roof, right? And then you look at some of the lower end quotes, the $333,000 quote. And then I even called, Terra Supreme just put on a new roof. So I talked with that roofer, what they did, what their square footage price was. So even when you're talking a 20-year roof, there's so many different variables within that. So do you want a 20-year roof? Do you want it to have a glued down membrane versus one that has screws in it every so many feet? A glued down's better because it seals to the insulation, but it costs more. But they're both 20-year, but one's more money. So you have all these, even within the 20-year scope, you have all these different systems.
Right.
And that's where, to me, it just gets confusing.
To me, it boiled down to what's the warranty? How good is the warranty? If you got a 20-year roof with an excellent warranty and it's price A versus price B, and what do they back up with the warranty? What does it cover?
And a caveat to the warranty cake is you want to have a reputable business do it.
Exactly,
Because if it's not a reputable business, they can file bankruptcy and that warranty means nothing.
that is correct.
So
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Yep.
So that has to be part of the consideration as well, yeah.
Yeah, just seeing, the 20-year costs, I know there's going to be stuff that's going to be fixed in between. What's that total cost can be, doing it twice compared to like it's a 40-year roof.
So keep in mind, these aren't fair. And it's been one of my biggest, I guess, complaints in this process is what this roof needs. Like did the Conklin guy, from the town building, did he come and look at this roof? And
The
actually
quality
get up-
roofing, yeah,
Yeah,
with
so
respect
he
to
came up-
Conklin, he did, he went up there.
Okay, so, and that's a little bit better quote than like what I would say Leatherman's. I don't think
They looked
Leatherman's.
at, I'm
walked
I'm
up
almost
on the roof.
certain, I thought Leatherman, do you recall? I thought Leatherman went up there
Yeah,
too.
they were up on.
Yeah.
At one point. Leatherman's, I can't remember.
But that's the other thing is just, you know, when you go through these quotes and you go through looking at what other roofs have, again, it's not apples to apples, and it's
Right.
it's
And
tough.
it's seriously not apples and oranges
Mhm.
in the quality roofing versus the Garland process.
And that's why I'm saying, like, I think a more reasonable mindset is at a minimum $12.50 per square foot is what we're probably looking at.
I want to address two other components of this discussion. For me, one of them is just how much can the town afford to spend? I mean, if the TIF wasn't used at all, what would the town be looking at? And I say that coming from a place of my first year on the RDC, I think we changed the facade grants to limit the amount that we would spend on a roof because the purpose of the RDC is really redevelopment and economic development. I know it's an allowed use of TIF funds. I get all of that. But for me personally, it just feels like, oh, really big ask when there's a lot of other things that we could potentially do with those funds. So that's part of where my head is I still don't really have an understanding of what the town could afford or what the impact of the 700,000 really is, or what the impact, you know, what it's going to do in the next, call it 20 years, 30 years, whatever that is. It's just a big number to me for a roof, not very sexy. So that's one thing for me. I think the other one is the question that's been on the table that I don't think we have a clear answer for, which is our ability to decide which TIF it comes out of, because we have a very large balance in one that we really struggle to spend down, and that's not true with the other. So I think for me, that's an important component that we don't have an answer to yet. I guess I'm a little bit confused. I'll go to number 3, which is I think I was present or online when the council voted to move forward with getting the 20-year quotes through the traditional code process. But nothing's happened. Is that where we're at? Like nobody's gone forward with that? Is that?
We didn't vote on that.
I thought there was a vote. Okay. Was it tabled?
It was, I've been so many conversations on
I know. I came away thinking there was a vote. If there wasn't,
that.
that's.
So yes, there was a discussion, and that was the direction that we were going to go, was to get quotes on 20-year traditional roofs. And then we came back, had it on the agenda the next meeting, and I said to the council, said, that's fine, we can do that. We need to be with absolute certainty that this is the direction that we're going, because we're not doing this again. Whatever we decide, whatever we submit for quotes, request for quotes, we are going to choose one, and that's what's going on the roof. Because what we have now is we have contractors who have taken time to come to Albion, Indiana, some from Illinois, some from Indiana. The Fort Wayne ones probably aren't as irked, but they've given us time, given us quotes, and now we're tabling it like we're not going to do it. So they've already got kind of a bad taste in their mouth. And I said, it's fine whatever direction we go, but know this, that when we decide, we're vectoring in that direction, and we will choose the lowest and most responsive bidder to put on the roof. So
Let me ask this, what do you think the reaction would be if you went back to any of these bidders on the AMIA process and said, I thought that there was supposed to be an option to vote all of the roof or pieces of parts, like phase 1, 2, 3. Did they do that?
they did.
Okay.
They did.
Is there any council discussion about one of those options versus?
It didn't make sense, to be honest with you. Let me see if I have it.
But you're talking Cadillacs, and I'm trying to buy an economy car that has good gas mileage, so. I'm living in my real world.
I would try to buy a Cadillac for the economy price.
Bingo.
That would be good.
So, yeah, but it doesn't have.
The one that I handled.
Did they group, I always saw it grouped as option 1, and then they put 2 and 3 together,
Yeah,
and that's,
Is that what
that's what this
is. that what
is.
this means? This is-
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
it's option 1 up here and then 2 and 3 down.
correct.
And then you have them total together to get this.
Because our thought was that if, depending on price, we could piecemeal this 1, 2, 3. 1 being over the offices, which we prioritize as number 1. But then when we got to looking at it, it didn't seem like it, because we thought it really didn't change that much from even year to year. And keep in mind that the other 2s are just estimations because we know it's going to go up. So if we do 1 this year, it's either going to go up. We're estimating 3 to 6%, somewhere in there.
Based on,
Historical. We have some other documents in here I can show you guys if you want. The projected costs of roofs and how they've went up since 2018.
73% over the last 6 years, and they used a 7% number year over year going forward, I think.
Right.
is there any option to do a Cadillac over the office and economy car over the rest of the building?
That I don't know. I don't know how they join together. I don't know. I'm not a roofing
Maybe
person,
that's
so
an
I can't.
engineering question.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
I did have one question on that bid sheet, though, that came in for the Omnia bid process. And the Van Dorn was the one that was shared with us, that the full documentation, they were the lowest bid at 1.324. What I found interesting as I was looking at across the sheet, that the material costs change.
Yeah, that is
So-
an astute observation on your part. And the way it was explained to us by Austin was that, because we wondered that too, why wouldn't there just be a set roofing
Yeah, there are
price?
for a couple of them.
And the reason that he said is that because each roofer goes about it a slightly different way. And there's variables in the material that they would spec, mainly quantity.
So he explained it, not getting into everything he said, because I can't remember it, but he said they install it differently. So
Yeah.
contractor X might utilize 4 screws per however many feet, and the next guy says, no, we do it 6 screws. That's a very dumbed down, simplistic way to try to explain it, but that was his rationale behind it.
Yeah, because we're talking an $85,000 difference on 2 and 3. Overall, it's, let's see, between the highest bidder and the lowest bidder, it's about $100,000 difference in materials.
Sure.
That's significant, and you're getting the same warranty, you're getting the same quality, you're getting everything that you expect out of that, but it's $100,000 different in materials.
Yeah, and that one I didn't understand much, but if you look up on the other line, the second line down for just doing the first section here, they were much closer together, and I don't know why there was such deviation over the whole roof versus.
I found that interesting, So, Josh, any thoughts, questions?
Well, just kind of, I mean, these numbers aren't going to be accurate, but just looking at the price of the 20-year, you can do that twice. You're going to have, things are going to be fixed. The town wants to do more work in here to remodel. It seems like it's going to be way cheaper to go that way. Plus, the companies that are going to be doing it are most likely to be more local, which means the economic impact will be greater than a company from out of state. That money that's being spent on the roof is going to stay in the community. That's kind of how I see it. But I mean, the total numbers aren't there, so you can't make a judgment fully. But that's just kind of how I see it. based on these little bit of numbers we do have.
I guess my question is has there been any like, I guess, structural analysis on the current building? And with only thing that kind of brings concern to my mind is the roof was replaced from the original building 21 years ago. That weight plus the additional weight of the new process, whichever way we go, but like, has there been any analysis on the like as-builds or anything like that to make sure the current structure can sustain the weight?
So that was part of it. Yes, there has been. The architect, Steve Park, did that with the 40-year membrane, and the 40-year membrane was fine structurally for this roof. Now, if we did something different, what was the 30-year with the rocks on top, and that would have required a little bit more structural analysis, if you will, if we had chose to go that route. But yeah, that was talked about. Now, if we decide to go with a different system, then absolutely it'll be taken into consideration again.
One other question, when I was flipping through the documentation that you sent, the only warranty that I saw was on one of the sheets where they were looking at the roofing systems, and the highest one there, 40, I don't know if it was the highest one or not, but it said it had a 32-year warranty.
40-year life expectancy with a 32-year warranty.
So after 32 years, if something happens to the roof, we're responsible for labor and materials to fix it, right? But up to 32 years, they're willing to do labor and materials to fix roof issues. Is that my understanding?
It's mine as well.
And it's not a prorated type of deal. It's all the way up to 32.
Yep.
A lot of roofs get prorated, as they get older, the amount that the warranty covers shifts as well.
Yeah, and part of that warranty process through Garland, the thing that was very attractive with that is that Austin was guaranteeing how the roof was installed. So he was 2 visits a week at a minimum, documentation of every visit, and so that it is a full warranty up to 32 years.
Right. And then again, I know we're talking apples and oranges, but when you look at the quality roofing, you can get up to a 32-year you can get a 30-year warranty on that product as well.
Is it a 30-year warranty or a 30-year roof life expectancy?
No, it said 30-year warranty in the documentation. Non-prorated transferable warranty is what it said in the quote.
Okay.
Which I found interesting. Again, I don't know. It's apples and oranges. It's different roofing systems, but I'm looking for. It just brings up questions in my mind, because it's such a significant difference in price.
Lori, to address some of your questions, I guess, Carol slapped me if I misspeak, but Carol sent out an email a little bit ago about the economic development plan. It does look like there's some verbiage in there that will allow us to utilize both TIF 1 and 2. However, we have an outstanding attorney that will comb through that, and we'll know more in the future whether or not it suffices as is or if changes need to be made.
I mean, historically, all our town, brought this up a couple times, all of our town expenditures out of the RDC have always been, since I've been on the board since 19, have always been 75-25 for everything, for the water systems, for police vehicles, for anything that we have done for the town has always been 75-25, TIF 1 to TIF 2.
So 75 out of TIF
75
1.
out of TIF 1. They've all been that way. And my question is, that's a problem.
Yeah.
For us, that's a problem, especially for something this size. That would ruin TIF 1. And we have trouble spending the money out of TIF 2 as it is. And to me, that's a very, very important, I mean, I know you guys have said, and I thought that direction was set with Franklin Peters, and they had come up with some formula that said this is how you should allocate TIF funds to town projects.
They weighed in on the roof project. I'll have to search the emails for
Well,
it.
and that was, I think, percentages that would be allowed based on occupation of various departments within the town. Am I getting the little?
Prorated amounts of the occupancy of the building.
Yes.
So like the street was 40%, the admin offices 20%, PD 20%. There was recent legislation that allows fire and police purchases out of the TIFs. And what I got was like the PD, we could have used everything from TIF 2 for that, but I was a bit more unclear if TIF 2 could be used for the rest, because this building's in TIF 1, it's not in TIF 2. And some information I got from the State Board of Accounts made it sound like, there was no problem with using TIF 2 for the police, but maybe there could be issues with using it for the rest, and that maybe you'd have to use TIF 1 for the rest of the building. But then when Jeff Peters and the attorney came back and said, well, you could do 50-50, to me, it kind of seems like you could go ahead, which is a question I did ask Kurt, but he needed to see all this other information. And I don't know yet, he hasn't responded to the email I sent today when we sent the economic development plans, if that's sufficient for him to make a determination. But to me, it seems like you could use TIF 4, and to me, it seems like you could use more in TIF 2 than TIF 1, because you have a higher cash balance in there and you have less pledged for other projects from the TIF 2. But there was also what I saw in the economic development plan for TIF 2, that it specifically referenced that the process for, spending out of that for materials, and I can't remember the rest of the verbiage, but you needed to follow the IC 36-1, which is the traditional competitive bidding process. So I don't know if Kurt will come back and say, that you could amend the plan to
change that
change
requirement.
it. I don't know. And I don't even know if he'll say that what we sent him was sufficient.
And that's one of the biggest problems we're facing right now, is allocating TIF 2 funds.
Right, and
And being
it
able-
would be better if we could use it to take as much from TIF 2 as possible. As far as the other funds, Jeff Peters had reviewed cash balances, but he didn't have information on other projects that TIF funds were pledged for, or other projects we had going on to use, like maybe CDIT and CCD. He was going off our cash balances. Could we fund the whole thing out of funds other than TIF 1, TIF 1 and 2? I don't see how we could comfortably do that and not sacrifice majorly for other projects. I was sweating it out, just trying to come up with, trying to budget for 2026 for this $700,000 match.
So if TIF funds were not an option and the town couldn't comfortably fund a new roof, I mean, what does a municipality do in that case when they need a roof? Are there other funding mechanisms
Finance it.
for any portion of this that we should talk about?
Probably bond.
I hate to see, there's so many soft costs in bonding. I would hate to see us do that, and I don't know the way the legislation has changed, if we would be subject to referendum to bond. That didn't go well for the school.
Any other thoughts or questions? I mean, this is all gonna come back up. And we hope, hopefully when it does come back up, we're all on the same page and we know some of the answers and that this can get moved through.
If, I'm sorry, if you want to continue to poll, I just thought maybe at a minimum, maybe we could kind of summarize a bit as to what we gauge from the discussion here, the most important issues are for RDC that then moving forward, we should be cognizant of, and, maybe we can should adjust our process to try to, proactively address your concerns. You want me to take a stab at that summary, or do you still want to go around, Brian? Want to go around and see if there's any other question? We're about to point to Mike.
It's just, I'm gonna jump the fence, okay? Okay, we know roofing is gonna be expensive. We know we're all gonna have sticker shock, okay? With whatever route y'all go. But the thing is that I would like to chat about just a little bit is how is the overall generality of your equipment? Like, can you think of something that you might need in the next 5 years? I know you can, but then I should rephrase that you have to have. Because if we use TIF money, that's gonna be, that source of funding is, it's gonna be depleted pretty heavily. And we can't rebound back that quick. That's just something to think about. This is more things to think about. And I know you're quiet over there in the corner, but you need equipment too. So does the fire department. So does the sewer department, the water department.
I'm just gonna make one comment, and this just comes from a place of frustration that housing keeps coming up over and over and over and over, and this community, this town has been unwilling to invest in things that I think TIF money could be used for. They don't come before us. Maybe we need to be more proactive. I don't know, just expressing an opinion here though, that,
Right.
why aren't we investing millions of dollars in trying to bring housing to this community? We're talking about 1.4 million for a roof. So, enough said. It's a frustration for me.
All the 5 years I've been here, I haven't done a good train in, but I know people tried. The previous town manager, that was his main goal. I'm not saying that we don't need it, but we can't force developers to come here.
No, but it almost, from what I've seen, Corey and
I've
other.
tried myself with some of my connections that I used to work with back in the landscape world. One of them is up here, I developed in White Oaks.
It takes skin from the community too. But,
Sure.
Where we see it happening, it is a public-private partnership. And that's just something that I think has been really difficult for this community to embrace. But when I think about spending 1.4 million, I sure wish over the last 3 years or so I've been with the RDC that we would have been able to spur at least one of those projects that didn't happen because we didn't want to give it a date. We didn't want to do this or that. It compounds the confusion in my head over spending this kind of money.
Well, if you want to try to take a stab at it, Steve,
Okay.
you're more than welcome.
I will, I'll take, and you guys please correct me here. So one of the things is there was interest in exploring alternate roof styles. Mike hit one, on the head there with the standing seam roof, where let's convert from a flat system to a slope system. So alternate roof styles, like call it a slope system, maybe, and then from there, what kind of covering? Well, probably metal, with metal, let's say. The other concern is well, the dollar amount kind of slash, life expectancy, that, is a 40 year, is that too extravagant? Should we go to a 20? And the point that Brian brought up is that if we're looking at useful warranty, we might be able to achieve a 30 year via,
Right, if
the other
it's a good
approach.
company with a good warranty, I mean, all that has to be, reviewed and looked at.
And Steve,
Yeah, Mike?
I did ask about the life expectancy of the building.
Thank you. So, and from the standpoint of, we shouldn't over-design the roof if it's on top of a,
If the building, if you
Toothpicks.
got an engineer that comes in and says, I'm gonna throw a rock here, says the building's only gonna last 17 more years.
Well,
So
design
we know
the
it
roof.
will probably last longer than that, but don't design a roof for 40 years.
yeah, real good point. So that's one of the concerns, making note of it here. Life expectancy of the building, the roof ought to be designed reasonably appropriately to match that. Match the roof, design the roof to match the building life. I know there were a few more points here, so jump in because my notes are like all over this page here. Let's see. Right, we had a bunch of things. Now, Brian, you brought up, and I don't know if, how do you had some concern about picking a design.
Right, I do, because, again, I don't know anything about a roof. What I look at is, from my stupid point of view, I want to know that somebody's going to guarantee me that roof's going to last for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever they say it's going to work for. That it's a reputable company, that it's got a long history, and it's more than likely going to be there to support that warranty. To me, that's what it boils down to. If my roof doesn't leak for 30 years and they say, it does, whether it's system A or system B, to me, if it lasts for 30 years, as it says it would, then I'm okay with that. And if they don't, then they're coming back and doing the work to replace and repair their problems. To me, that's what it boils down to. Maybe that's absolutely wrong, but that's just the way I look at it.
But I thought you also were kind of maybe espousing, let's do some kind of, is there value in doing whatever you call it, an open, like soliciting quotes or proposals
The proposals are.
without design
Let's
specs?
be clear, we have foregone the Omnia procurement process at this point. Okay, so I don't know if that.
You state that one more time.
We have foregone the Omnia procurement process that we utilized for these 40-year roofs. So at a minimum, we're either going to do a 20-year roof and have it bid traditionally, or we are going to rebid a 40-year at the traditional methods.
Really, I mean, you're not, I didn't understand that. I mean, that's what your intent to do is at this point in time?
Yes,
To not,
and that's what Lori alluded to a little bit there. We did agree at the meeting to bid it traditionally. Am I misspeaking this?
I took it to be a consensus to do the 20-year. And I thought it was traditional.
Well, it was the meeting before the last meeting, and in the last meeting, we brought it up again, and then that's when they were bouncing back and
Yes,
forth.
that, yes.
Right.
Between the
So I
20 and the
think it was
40.
July 8th, they were
But again,
still the 20 and.
to me, I get confused with, okay, you're going to 20 or 40. Again, I'm all about the warranty and all about the life of that roof, but if there's good options for 30.
Keeps going there too. I mean, it was multiple times 20, 30, 40, and we're talking
Right.
about both ends and not in the middle.
Yeah, and so our original estimate was a 1.5 for a 40-year roof and a 1.3 for a 30-year roof.
But that's all from Garland. That's their process for using their base prices and their base numbers.
Correct.
And
So-
I get that. That's their job to sell us roofs, to sell roofs and get that going.
So you weren't the only person with those reservations. So, that's part of the reason that, let's just throw the Omnia procurement process out the window so that we're all on the same sheet of music, okay?
Okay.
So it is gonna be a 3-bid, I shouldn't say 3-bid. It's gonna be a traditional bid for both material and labor on whatever life expectancy we go, whether it's a 20-year life expectancy or it's a 40-year life expectancy. It's going to be rebid both for material and labor. It is going to be spec'd out by an architectural engineering firm who should as well check on the do a structural analysis of this building, should look at the expectancy of the roof versus the expectancy of the building. So we are going to do those things.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
The concern about Steve Parks charging another $100,000 to do the traditional bidding process, is this why you're doing a different engineering firm?
I think Steve Park has no interest in doing our.
Okay, all right. So he threw that out there to eliminate
I'm
it from-
speculating here.
Okay.
So he hasn't
I
made
just wanna
that
make
official
sure
and we're in
that-
a public forum, so I don't want to put words into
No,
his mouth.
okay, all right. But that is not a factor in this because you're talking different.
We're gonna have to pay engineering and architectural
Sure.
fees for doing that. To write the spec for the roof, to then send it out for traditional bids. And we might get a Conklin system and a Garland system and
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all fine. If
you
if
just
that's-
don't know.
And I think we'll instruct the engineer to look at Mike's idea, can we go to a slope roof system with likely, metal?
I did some Google. That's, it's danger, it is dangerous.
It is, it is.
easy.
But the information I did get was that could cost you $32 a square foot, or might even go a little higher.
For standing seam? Yeah. For that. The old jail was in asking for,
It'll be expensive, but one of my thoughts were, okay, if we were gonna look at the $1.4 million flat roof, standing seam, because we know it was 1.4 up to 2.2 million quotes for this same roof. Okay, if it fell in there somewhere, it should be a consideration because less maintenance on the standing seam roof. Not to say they threw out some lower numbers, but I don't think the lower numbers were real because they started like 18. So it's that's all. 32, okay, I can buy that.
Anything else, Steve? You have in your
Not at
list?
not at the moment. As I go through my notes, I might come up with something more. If you think of something I missed, email it to me. And then I think, I'll reflect that in the minutes of the meeting. I'll try that I'll produce for our next meeting. And then ultimately, it'll get back to, the council to say, here's some adjusted marching orders, if you will, that will help RDC to get on board next year with the decision, I suppose. And I think, whenever we get the information back from the engineer, because, we'll need some costs estimates. Carol and I have talked about, Carol said she would be able to, she'll have to budget next summer at this time for the 27 budget. So she'll need a number. And so we're it's a new game in town, so we'll have to kind of get estimates somehow. How we do that, I guess to be determined, and maybe it'll be through the architect/engineer involved in the new approach. But there'll be a couple of elements to this, but I think Zane being here is, I think, testament to that the council is, concerned, that they want to listen, get your input, And this meeting has provided a lot of that, and that it in turn, council and public works committee, in turn will take this to the bank to change some things so that hopefully when we come back again, you'll feel that we were listened to and that we've made some course correction and adjustments that'll make some sense to all the parties involved.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up, discuss?
I poured it all out.
You poured it all out?
Well, Carol makes me have a question. When you talked about the economic development plan, the RDCs, is that something that we need to plan to revisit here soon, or?
It was later, I think today, that I actually got that sent out to you. So if you haven't checked your email, what I did was I sent it to Kurt, but I copied the RDC and the council and department heads on what we found. And part of the problem with that, just to let you know, is that not Steve, not the town manager before, but before that, when that person came into office, they wanted to make the town manager office their own. And so they cleaned it out and they put a lot of information in boxes and put them on shelves. So we were climbing ladders and getting in boxes, trying to find the information from over 30 years ago. So I don't know if Kurt has everything he needs. I'm hoping so. So that
I'm
was
just wondering if that's a document that should be updated like other planning documents? Should
Well,
be
he'll
updated
probably
every
come back.
decade or
I
so?
would hope that what Steve gave him included updates to that.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
So he may
I think
already
it may,
have
I think
it.
it did to a certain degree, but
But Kurt's whole thing to begin with was he needed to see the original economic development plans for the TIF districts. And if they did not include provisions for this roof, that it would have to be amended in order to do so. I didn't get from him that it was impossible to do it. It was that we need to maybe amend the plan. You'd want to do a resolution, probably specifically outlining how much and that you were going to be contributing to this project, which there's been resolutions in the past with TIF funds saying, hey, this is the rationale for using TIF funds for whatever project.
Lori, I mean, if I guess we'll know more when Kurt comes back
Sure.
and says, here's what you need to do. And then it'll really probably be just from his perspective, just to fulfill the letter of the law. Now, maybe you're referring to,
More of our roles and responsibilities, I guess, just as an RDC, like what, is that traditionally something that?
well, I
is
would,
revisited from time to time?
I would think, and I kind of bet that the economic development plan is written in a generic enough way that you've got a lot of latitude, we as RDC, to say, we want to do invest in some infrastructure to stimulate housing. Well, that's already in there. I think all the categories that you would want to spend money in are allowed, and the roof was the question mark. But again, even without that plan, even without adjusting the plan, let's say if you wanted to slant it more toward this category than this category, you've got the latitude. You can just do it. When the time comes at any point that you want to say, weigh in on spending TIF dollars, you've got prerogative to do it, within that whole generic authorization. So, you've got a lot of latitude. We have, the TIF spending plan that kind of has listed the categories each year, and we can adjust that as we go. That
We
too
can
is
do
just a
that.
plan.
That'll change a bunch for next year. So, all right.
I have one more question to the RDC. So we don't get to the point where we're at now, I guess, which is Public Works Committee started it, brought it to council, council vectored in a direction, RDC gets sticker shock. Okay. What would be an appropriate way for all of us to proceed in 2026 so that we don't arrive at let's say a sticker shock conclusion to where we've irritated some contractors who've bid on this. RDC doesn't want to fund this. Carol's really mad at me again for her trying to appropriate everything.
Not mad.
And/or you're upset with the process.
Right,
Yes.
I'm not mad at you, Zane.
But so what would be the best way? Do you want us as like the Public Works Committee to talk with the engineering firm, and then the engineering firm, you know, do you guys want, how do you want updates so that you're in the loop of what we're doing, I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, having updates would help. I mean, yeah, we pretty much, we haven't had anything official. We've had mentions and this and that of this throughout, but you know, this is our first real discussion as a body about this topic. So yes, I think as you're going through and as you're finding, as you're doing your work and doing your fact finding, being able to give us a presentation of where you're at and what's going on and how that would keep us up to speed and know what's going on with it. I mean,
I think it's about the perspective that you take on the TIF funds, that it's not just another account of money that the town can tap into, because that's really not what it is. It's an economic development pool of money that we are solely responsible for. And I think, at least for myself, I feel like we owe good decisions on how that money's spent back to the people that paid those, or that we collected that tax money from, for economic development purposes to support them. So I just, you know, any project that's going to come that's a town project, that's a public works project, to me is a very low priority for the TIF funds. So I would want to be in at the very beginning so that we're a collaborative partner and as bought into it as you are, that this needs to happen versus it being, you know, write a check or pass this resolution that we're aiming to. I think
So
it's
what
more
does
of
that
an
look like
incentive
to you?
thing. More meetings, more contact, more discussions up front.
Is it something where an RDC member would like to come to Public Works Committee meetings to discuss the roofing project when we're going through this?
I mean, I'd be willing to do that. I think that's probably. But just to be
Would you-
a partner in the process versus, you know, just a purse strings signer. I mean, that's how I see it, and I don't mean that to sound terribly derogative, but that's the perception I have is historically maybe how this has been perceived, and that's not how I understand a redevelopment commission to be. And my interest in joining was to try to be a little more progressive in how we think about it. And that comes from seeing what other communities do. Kenneville's been a great model to learn from, and the ways that they're spending their TIF money are really impactful. And we've ended up, Mike brought it up right after I joined, like we ended up spending a lot of money re-roofing the Albion. And that's just, again, it's fine and it's an investment, but I just don't really feel like that's the intent of the TIF money.
Would it help that if, as we make progress on the Public Works Committee level, presumably is where our process will continue with next year, that as we make any milestones, if I were to summarize it or something like that, and then shoot you all an email, and then it can be decided, oh yeah, this is significant, let's meet or not. I mean, if that would help, I'd be, you know, I guess we could decide to do that.
Or if you'd like to give us an invite to show up at your meeting.
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
Potentially.
Well, and I mean, where it's, I'm speculating here, but it's kind of back to the drawing board a little bit. I think the next step is getting the engineering and architectural firm in here to figure out what type of roof we need, and then it would probably be discussed at the Public Works Committee meeting at that point. And then from there, it would probably go to the council after that. But yeah, by all means, we'll do whatever.
If I'll be honest with you, if I'm free, even if it's in the middle of the day,
Do we have statutes about how many people could attend and not have to do a public notice on this committee? On this commission?
I mean, I would probably just treat it like any other council thing, so just two.
If you have a majority, we might need to advertise it as a joint.
I'm not suggesting that we all need to do that, but I just
No,
was
I wasn't
curious
sure
if
those
we need to
rules
know that.
applied to non-elected,
Volunteers.
non-elected
oh, yeah.
officials,
Oh,
say, type of meeting, committee meetings. I may be wrong.
Remember also, any meetings held in this room as of July 1st will be recorded
Right.
and they're available.
Yeah.
If you catch a July meeting, you can catch at the July 22nd meeting, where this was discussed in the council level from the comfort of your own couch, just by getting on the website and punching up that date. So it's up to you to kind of how involved you want to be. You really can't say anything if you're looking at the archive, but Lori's been online before because I've seen her name there during the meeting. So there's really no reason not to know what's going on if you know that topic's going to be discussed. Because you can even find it later.
A friendly email letting you know that.
Absolutely, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
just the courtesy of, hey, didn't see the agenda or you're not aware, because, we're all busy.
Yeah, we'll try to do that. Now, Public Works Committee meetings are typically 11 a.m. in the morning, just because we're trying to accommodate Zane and Chris's scheduling. But yeah, we could give an FYI, and then if that doesn't work out where you come, then, either one of us should update you at the next meeting, or, we'll figure it out. But the goal will be to partner with you in a more communicative, proactive way.
Do I copy you guys on council agendas now? I thought I did.
Town council meetings,
Okay,
minutes you do.
all
You
right.
get the minutes.
Do I
Get the agenda?
do it on the agenda and the minutes? Oh, okay, I'm gonna make
I
a
think it's
note.
just the minutes that I see.
And then short of meeting invites back and forth, that'll all be good and well. But again, any substantive milestones, I can certainly shoot you an email saying, here's what happened, here's where we're at. And then, Brian, you could always decide, okay, let's do a special meeting, or let's add it to the next agenda,
Just
whatever.
review, yeah. Update and review.
Yeah.
I did already send the agenda out for the meeting on the 12th, and we do have an item on there for update on the roof project, so it will be on.
It's-
August 12th.
It's gonna be on every.
I hope it is what we just talked about.
It's
This,
going to be on the permanent agenda.
this roof project has been put on hold. We are going to appropriate in 26 for installation in 27, and I hope it's silence after that.
Yeah. Except the pitter patter of raindrops
Right.
on the metal roof, or whatever we end up.
That'd be nice, but, it is expensive. I just warn you.
Anything else from anybody? I do have one thing that I'd like to close with. Again, I'd like to welcome Gavin on board. And I've had a discussion with Vicky and a couple other people that I've informed them that I'll serve through the end of the year, but I'm not going to serve on the RDC starting in 2026.
We'll still be friends.
Okay.
Zane, I'm sorry this has been such a
Thanks for your time, Brian.
Yeah.
difficult
Yeah,
process.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you for all your work.
we appreciate it. It's just,
No, I get it. And I think I told Brian on the phone when I called him. But I'm not married to the idea of a 40-year roof, and I'm not married to the idea of a 20-year roof. Like,
I want the best bang you can get for the buck.
Yeah.
I want a good roof that doesn't leak. And the best bang you can get for that dollar.
I'm just all for due diligence, so
Yeah.
I know it's gonna take longer, but I think what we've talked about is gonna be best in the long run. Spend a little more time on it.
I actually have a question for Robbie, but he's not here.
All right, is there motion for adjournment?
I motion with you, Jerry.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.